Um, cool. Seems like I'm live now. Good afternoon, good evening, good morning, good night, whatever time zone you're in. Hopefully I find you well, whether you're watching the VOD or if somebody is watching the stream live right now. I'm gonna wait a few minutes before I give my spiel, to see if some people join. But yeah, welcome. We'll be starting in the next few minutes. And just getting a few more things ready. But yeah, ready for Advent of Code, day 2. Did decently well yesterday, but definitely could have been better. Definitely would have been nice if I realized that there were part 2s on these. So I didn't waste probably around a minute yesterday. A little bit confused about what part 2 was, and then realizing that there was a part 2. But, yeah. So, like I said, gonna get started here in a few minutes. Just wait for some people to come in if they'd like. But yeah. Yeah, a couple of things. I'll throw that out there now. A couple of things I noticed yesterday after watching my VOD. Yesterday was the second time ever that I've streamed on Twitch. First on a Mac system, so there were some things that needed to be ironed out. But yeah, I changed my noise gate a little bit. The thresholds are a little different, so I was cutting out a bit yesterday. Hopefully, it's better today. But yeah, we'll see how it goes. You'll also probably notice that the layout of the stream looks a little different today. Just today, got a one of the 4K ultra wide monitors, like 3840 by 1600 LG ultra wide monitor. So I didn't want to crop in on that with all of this glorious new screen real estate. So I'm going to try this out. I'm going to be using the ultra wide aspect ratio, and we got this cool Oteemo banner down here at the bottom. And yeah, my camera's not going to be covering anything now. Well, it wasn't covering anything yesterday, but it was taking up some of my screen real estate. So hopefully things will be a little more legible today. And hopefully the ultra wide is a net all right. It's probably not better for 16 by 9, but hopefully it's at least all right. It's definitely a lot better workflow wise on my end. But yeah. So doing my little intro spiel. So my name's Connor Azzarello. I work for a company called Oteemo Inc. And maybe by the end of this month, I will memorize this spiel. But yeah, Oteemo Inc. is a solutions-based consulting organization with a laser focus on helping its clients unlock the power of modern technology and accelerate innovation through modern software delivery. So one of the main things that we focus on is DevOps, and that's personally what I work in as a consultant, doing a lot of automation, cloud computing related tasks, provisioning of VMs and other cloud resources, and yeah, lots of containers, working on Kubernetes as well. If you have any questions about what we do, feel free to ask. Based out of Reston, Virginia. I'm personally on the West Coast in Washington State, but we're based out of Reston, Virginia. Most of us work remotely, and Reston is just outside the DC area. So yeah, we're starting, or I have started this streaming experiment, I guess, because it was something I wanted to do in terms of streaming programming, doing some educational content, and it was something that was greenlit by Oteemo that they wanted to support moving forward. So thank you for, whether you're watching this on VODs or live, thank you for joining in on this experiment. But But yeah, feel free to ask any questions you might have, give any suggestions, both about the advent of code once we start working on that, or just general stream suggestions. Like I said, I'm a rather novice streamer, so any suggestions are greatly appreciated. Feel free to ask questions, personal, technical, whatever it may be, and I will try my best to answer. I should be able to answer the personal questions, but technical ones, no promises. But yeah, so general plan for today, it's 8:35 Pacific right now. The challenge for the day drops at 9 p.m. my time, so 25 minutes from now, as of right now. So on the stream yesterday, I started working on this password one from last year, day 2 of 2020's advent of code. Kind of laid out the rest of the pseudocode, and going to explain myself, work through that as I continue. Doing that up until it's time to start today's question. Yeah, minor disclaimer, for some reason after work today, my body just, I don't know if I'm getting sick, I don't know what it is, but I started feeling really dizzy and under the weather. Hopefully I'm not getting sick, but wanted to continue this project. But if I'm talking a little less than normal, if my brain's not firing on all cylinders, whatever it may be, that's probably why. But hopefully I feel better when I wake up tomorrow, but we'll see. Yeah, without further ado, let's get started on working on day 2 of 2020's, continuing to work on that. So I guess one other thing, I'm going to be programming in Python because that's personally what I am the most experienced with, especially in terms of coding things fast. But I am a little out of practice as of late. Yeah, poggers. Hopefully that was towards Python. Python is pretty poggers, I'll admit. But yeah, going to be programming Python. Maybe as the month goes on, maybe I can try some new stuff. I've been learning some Rust. Very, very cool, but I don't think I grasp it well enough right now to solve solutions. Maybe it might work for smaller things like this, but definitely have not gotten to the point where I feel comfortable enough about some of those interesting, very cool, but also complex Rust topics. So yeah, I've got 3 things up right here. Maybe we'll be pulling up an additional window if I need to search anything on Firefox, or maybe just keep it on the same tab. But on the far left, we've got chat, just so it's in my line of sight, so I can see it, but also so you can see yourself, and if we get some chat participation, I can point it out here. I got this cool Mac thing where I wiggle the mouse and it gets big. Yeah, so going over a little bit about day 2 of 2020. I'm not going to specify anymore because it is day 2 of 2021. But once we switch around 9 p.m. Pacific, you'll see that. But day 2 of last year's, there's some extra kind of fluff. But basically you get an input file, and there's 3 main portions to it. This first kind of column, there's 2 parts of this password policy. So there's these numbers and a letter, followed by the colon. So the way that the password policy, hopefully I don't get this wrong, probably easier if I just read it, but each line gives the password policy and then the password. The password policy indicates the lowest and highest number of times a given letter must appear for the password to be valid. For example, 1 through 3A means that the password must contain A at least 1 time and at most 3 times. So if you look in the above example, 2 passwords are valid. The middle password is not valid because there is no B. It's just C, D, E, F, G. There is no B, so it does not meet the policy criteria of 1 through 3B because there are 0 Bs. So can take out this combinations thing. Might leave pprint in here, which is a cool utility for Python for pretty printing. It allows you, when you have like say nested lists or something, have each element printed on a separate line. instead of one really, really long line. It's just useful as a utility for debugging and stuff. So stepping through the first real line, you have a variable f, which is opening the input.txt file, which we got yesterday from the puzzle input. Already been loaded in. I guess I can show that to you. But here it is. There's 1,000 lines of that. So yeah, it opens it, puts it into f, and then the input is set to f.readlines, which takes that file pointer, essentially, and reads each line into a... each line is a separate element in the list. So then what I want to do is I wanted to split by space delimiters, so that I get 1 through 3. The A, for example, for the first line, excuse me, 1 through 3, and then delimited by the space, and then the A colon space, and then A, B, C, D, E, etc. for each line. So by default, split on strings in Python, the default delimiter is space. Because if you think about it, that's the most common in the English language. You want to split a long string into the words. So it creates a new list called lines. I don't necessarily always have the most creative variable titles, but I will try to work on that. But yeah, so for every line in the input, it appends the split of the lines, which is exactly as I was kind of explaining before. It becomes a list of lists where the 0th element has the string 1 through 3 in this example. And then the second element has A colon, and then the third element, or the second in terms of 0 indexing, is A, B, C, D, E. So as of line 7, that's what we have. Just kind of for people that have just joined. I see we've got 5 people on. Very cool. Feel free to go into chat, ask any questions, say hi. I want to meet who's here. But yeah, just kind of reviewing what I started yesterday to do doing some practice. So as of line 7 is what I just explained. And then on line 9, iterating through the line again. What I wanted to do was I wanted to split that first element in index 0 by the hyphen. So I get the lower bound and the upper bound. As we saw yesterday, the solution here is not super clean, but we're just trying to get an answer, not necessarily creating the most elegant code. So yeah, I'll show you in a second, and then actually I'll show right now. Oh, I don't have a printout of it. So this is where pprint is useful. So you see pprint prints them each on separate lines. So as we were talking about before, if we just take this last example, lower bound's 9, upper bound's 11. So we're now triple nesting lists or double nesting lists, which isn't the most elegant solution, but now we've got 9 as a lower bound and 11 as an upper bound. The issue we're going to see here, as you can tell by the quote, is that this is being treated as a string right now. So in order for actually be able to do any mathematical operations on that, check and see how many instances of the letter are within the password. For example, B is the one in question here. It needs to be casted to an int. So I will do that in a second. Probably implicitly in the way that I solve the solution. So the next part, this Q down here, I only did it once, so there's a break. But then again, iterating through all of the lines, I created a count, created a variable called letter in question, which is a string cast of line index 1, which is like, for instance, the Q colon for the first line, and then the 0th element of that. I guess I don't need a string cast here. that's implied, it's already a string, but then the 0th element of that string, which is just that single letter. So as you saw, you print that letter in question, and we can take out this break. And then for each letter in the, again, I don't need to have this string cast either. So line, for each line, right, there's the index 2, the third element, which is the actual password, right? So for each letter, what I can do is I can print the letter. I'll throw in a break so there's not too much extra stuff printing, but so that's the last password. It's one of those Q's is part of the policy, but it's Q, 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 X, H, and blah, blah, blah. So now I want to check if letter, is equal to the letter in question, which is my way of saying like the policy relevant letter. Then you want to do a count plus equal to 1. So you increment it by 1. And then once you've iterated through the entire password, this is where that last element, for example, if it was 7-11, you want that lower bound and that upper bound casted to a string. So you would check if count. So before that, outside of this, we want to have valid passwords, which is another count variable, but valid passwords outside this loop, because you just want to count, not trying to think about how I explain this in a good way, but you want to have 2 separate counts, one that keeps resetting for each password and relevant policy, and then it keeps getting reset to 0 because you just want to count the number of letters within that password. But then outside of that loop, you want to have a valid passwords counter that is then going to be incremented if that other count that I was just talking about is greater than or equal to the lower bound, or less than or equal to the upper bound. Then you increment that count, and that is going to be our solution, because again, it's how many passwords are valid according to these policies. So back to the solution. If count is less than or equal to, it's going to be line 0, 1, 2. So it's the third element, because remember here, 0. This one's the 0th element. This is the first element. This is the second. In 0 indexing, this is the third element, and then the lower bound is going to be the third, and then subscripted again to 0. This is the third subscripted to 1. So it's 3 and 0. But again, as you see here, you can tell dynamic languages like Python make it a little bit harder, but you can tell that this is a string because it's quoted on the outside. So if you do a comparison operation, it's not going to compare it to the number 9, it's going to compare it to the character 9, which sometimes gives the same behavior that you would expect, but most of the time it does not. So we want to cast both of these to the int when we do our comparison. So you do that by doing an int and then wrapping it there. Or count is less than or equal to, casting to an int, line 3 again, because it's that like nested list, index 1, not cout, wrong language. And then you do the valid passwords is plus equal to 1. Take out the break, take out these prints, might add them back if necessary, but print the number of valid passwords is Why'd that not work? It's interesting. I mean, it works. It gave us a number, but just in terms of formatting. Do I forget how print works? Yeah, that's what I was looking for. So, based on my preliminary attempt, I believe the answer to this problem is 876. If not, we will go back to the drawing board. That is not the right answer. The answer is too high. If you're stuck, make sure you're using the full input set. I think I'm using the full input set. I might have to reread the problem just to make sure there isn't something I'm super clearly missing. But yeah, let's. How do I want to do this? And then copy this again. Yeah, I should count them by hand. I think at this point, maybe even faster. There's the same number of lines, so I don't think that's the issue. So it's a little too high, which makes sense. Out of 1,000, it seems like 800 some. I don't remember what number I got. 876 does feel like a rather high number of things, but then the must contain A at least one time and at most 3. So A, B, C, D. So let's see. So I'm going to add a break to this. I'm going to do some debugging. I know I got 8 minutes, so I can't get too deep into this, but maybe I can finish solving it after. But maybe we'll save it for tomorrow too. We'll see. Really mainly focusing on today's challenge, but we'll see how it goes. So what things would we want to see? So print the letter in question, the line 2, which in this case is the password, and the count. So maybe I'm able to see what the issue is immediately. So with Q, this looks correct. Q, Q, Q. Yeah, so there are 7 Qs in the password. Maybe there was something wrong. Is that the entire password? Yeah, no, there are definitely 7 Qs in there, but this should be a no. So this shouldn't be considered because it needs 9, between 9 and 12 Qs in order to be a valid password, given the policy. So, not valid, print valid. Okay, so we know why this is wrong. Oh. So count can't be. Oh. I did this completely wrong. My condition. I should have thought about this a little harder. So it needs to be greater than or equal to the minimum and less than or equal to the maximum. So that would be why. So it's not valid. Take out the break. Gonna have a lot of printouts, but keep pressing T. 569. I'm more confident now. Yep, cool. Got the right answer. Only got 5 minutes left, so I'm not gonna continue on to part 2. At least I do know that there is a part 2, so I don't waste time like I did yesterday. But yeah, welcome all the viewers that are here live. Feel free to ask questions. My name's Connor. You can address me as such. as somebody, probably one of my friends or coworkers, I'm not really sure, in the chat put, some people call me corn dog, so feel free to do that as well. We're all friends here, right? But if you have any questions about what I do, what I'm doing here, anything about my setup, I'm using Vim, currently working on my work MacBook, normally a Linux user, recently moved over to NixOS, very, very cool project. I'd recommend looking into it. The idea of a declarative operating system where you can basically have not just your program configuration, but literally your entire operating system's configuration in a single or a set of configuration files is really, really cool. And being able to source control your entire OS is very cool. But I got my start with Linux. Technically with WSL on Windows. I was a Windows user before this. And got into it because of Vim. I thought the idea of Vim was really cool, and I couldn't figure out how to install it on Windows at the time. But yeah, and then moved over to Pop! OS, worked on that for about a year. I'm relatively new to Linux, but yeah, so Vim plugins. I will admit I can't tell you exactly everything that I'm using because I am using someone else's, basically, it's not a configuration, but kind of a distribution of Vim, and it's called Lunar Vim. So yeah, if you want to, you can take a look here. It's mostly stock here with some small changes for like language servers and stuff. Hopefully this works. Yeah, there we go. Very, very cool project. Christian, I think, is the guy who, yeah, Christian, and then a lot of the other people that work on the project. Very, very cool. Super helpful in their Discord anytime that I was having issues with it. They've been very, very helpful. But yeah, it's got full LSP support. This is like NeoVim. So I'm using NeoVim. It's NeoVim 0.5, which means that it's full Lua, all no more Vim script, which is really, really cool. It's more performant. Lazy loads plugins. What other things? Got 3 minutes left, but what other things are interesting here? It's got this, I think this is part of NeoVim itself, but this virtual terminal, which is really nice. You can just pull it up. But the thing I really, really like, and I wish I could tell you what the plugin's called, but if I hit space, which is my leader key, it does this cool thing where it shows you what the possible keys you can press after that and what they do. And then they expand. So if I press B, it tells me all of these buffer options and what I can do there. But yeah, go ahead and take a look. Some cool stuff there. You can either use the full thing. They got a really easy install process, or if you want to just use some ideas from it or use it as a base. Very, very cool. So 1 minute and 43 seconds left. Yeah, excited to get started. I think I said yesterday on leaderboard. Yeah, personal stats. So I was 117 18th rank on part 2. So my feeling is that if I get better than that at least once during this month, it doesn't have to be always increasing, but if I can get a better rank than that sometime this month, I'll call it a win. But I'll call it a win no matter what I do. Practicing coding is always nice. Oh, yeah, so get out of this. Uh, um, yeah, so 39 seconds to go. I'm just copying over my stuff from yesterday. Gives me a good boilerplate at the very least. It's got the how you take that input.txt file and move it in, but and read it into a data structure. So gonna delete this. Another cool part is it's got this NVim tree built in, so you have this file explorer that you can move back and forth from, which is very, very nice. Okay, 1 minute. Okay, now you need to figure out how to pilot this thing. So the whole like story of this one is about like a submarine. So it seems like the submarine can take a series of commands like forward 1, down 2, or up 3. Forward X increases the horizontal position by X units. Down X increases the depth by X units, and up X decreases the depth by X units. Note that since you are on a submarine, down and up affect your depth, and so they have the opposite result of what you might expect. So yes, down creates a larger number, is basically what they're saying here. The submarine seems to already have a planned course, which is your puzzle input. You should probably figure out where it's going. For example, forward 5, down 5, forward 8, up 3, down, blah, blah, blah. Your horizontal position and depth both start at 0. The steps above then modify them as follows. So it adds 5 to the forward one, down adds 5 to your depth, forward 8, so your total value is 13, blah, blah, blah. So that seems pretty understandable. So after following these instructions, you would have a horizontal position, multiply them together. So we're just trying to figure out how far horizontally you move and vertically you move, multiply those values together, and that is what we're doing. So yeah, I'm going to keep commentary somewhat to a minimum, but I'm happy to answer questions. Oops. What's happening? Oh no, doing something weird. Is my keyboard being weird? Okay. I'm clicking around Vim. I'm sorry, that's sacrilegious. So yeah, read lines, creates the list, appends. You don't want to append the integer value. Actually, I don't need this at all. I don't need any of this because this is from yesterday's challenge. So input will have it. You have so horizontal, just make it short. H position equals 0. Vertical, sorry, keeping it short. Vertical position equals 0. So what we want to do is we want to split every, so for line in input, I probably shouldn't have deleted what I had before. It's going to be necessary in some way. So instructions equals bare list, for line and input, instructions dot append line dot split, and bare because you want to use the default delimiter. So it's separating the forward and the value. And you also want to do split line, this line dot split, and then split line 1 is equal to the string cast of split line 1, which is the number, because again, in order to add them together instead of just concatenating strings, we want to do that. Oh, I forgot the equals. Sorry, lots of errors coming up right now. So instead, want to add split line. Just make sure I'm doing this right. See, there we go. Pprint. Instructions. Interesting. Why is it taking this as a string? Why is it not casting that? Whatever. So instruction is going to be split line 0, and distance is going to be, I'm sure it has something to do with passing by reference. Oh, I'm so stupid. It's because I gave it a string cast instead, but whatever. Actually, no, I could have just left this. Yeah, there we go. That's what we want. I don't know what this error means, but probably not super, super important. So, for instruction in instructions, if instruction 0, which is like the actual instruction, not the distance, and the paradigm I was just talking about, is equal to forward, then horizontal position is plus equal to instruction 1, which is the distance, else if instruction 0 is equal to down. Remember, it's a little weird because it's a submarine. Down is going to add to the vertical position. So V position is plus equal to instruction 1. And just going to do an else if just in case I did something wrong, because yeah. So down, up is going to subtract, same thing again. V position is minus equal to instruction 1. Why? Wait, why is this happening? Is it? Oh. Wait, is it elif? Yeah. Yeah, I'm a little out of practice with Python, but it's all right. So print h position times v position, and that should be our answer if we did everything right. Ooh, that's very large. 5080. I don't know if I trust that. Okay, no, it was right. So part 1's done. Now moving on to part 2. Based on your calculations, the planned course doesn't seem to make any sense. You find the submarine manual and discover that the process is actually slightly more complicated. In addition to horizontal position and depth, you also need to track a third value, aim, which also starts at 0. The command also means something entirely different than you first thought. Excuse me. Down X increases your aim by X units. Up X decreases your aim by X units. Forward X does two things. It increases your horizontal position by X units, and it increases your depth by your aim multiplied by X. So they lay everything out. I think this is just an example right now. So using this new interpretation of the commands, calculate the horizontal position and depth you would have after following the planned course. What do you get if you multiply your final horizontal position by your final depth? So does aim even matter? Oh, yeah, because forward changes your depth to aim multiplied. Okay, so first thing is we want to add a new value aim that starts at 0. The main, like, scaffolding of the code, I don't believe it's going to change here. It's just the actual, like, conditions down here. So, down X decreases your aim by X units. So aim is minus equal to X, which is our instruction 1. Up X decreases your aim by X units. Wait. Oh, I did this wrong. This increases your aim. This decreases your aim. By X units. And then the fun one, forward X does two things. It Oh. It doesn't have the normal effects. So if I read this correctly, up and down no longer change your vertical position. They only change your aim, but the vertical position, also known as your depth, will be changed by the aim multiplied by X. So uh, forward X now does two things. It increases your horizontal position, which is what we had before, and it also increases, oh, sorry, so depth is B position by aim times instruction 1. So let's see if I did this right. Oh, that's a long number, but I think this is correct. I might be completely misunderstanding this, but 5580. Cool. I got the right answer. So I'm interested to see how I am on the leaderboard. What was mine? 1718 was what I needed to beat before. No, got a lot slower, but I was talking a decent amount today, and maybe more people are taking part in it or whatever. But just remember, one day I need to do it. So, in order to get my win, so to speak. But yeah, that was fun. Definitely felt like I was going a little slow. Thank you, Amish boy. Yeah, not quite as fast as I would have liked, but I was also talking through it. So maybe if I did it by myself, I would have been faster. I don't know. I don't know what this means. You're probably not supposed to set it in place, but that's whatever. I don't particularly care. So yeah. Very cool, very cool. Thank you for coming back, Devil Squirrel. Do they get harder as it goes on? Is that like a part of how Advent of Code works? Like I said, I've never done it before, but is that part of how it works? Okay. Like, how much harder are we talking? Like, am I gonna be spending over an hour on Christmas Eve on these, or obviously it depends on the situation and if I make stupid mistakes, but are we talking significantly harder? First 10 or so are pretty easy, then 11 through 20 gets tough. Okay, so I'll at least be getting back into practice with Python by the time I have to do 11 through 20. And then I assume 20 through 25 are like really difficult. But yeah, we'll see. If you're not crying, it's not hard enough. Yeah, maybe I will. Maybe that'll be a fun surprise towards the end of this experiment. Oh, I'm kind of excited for that though. I feel like these are more, there's not a huge amount of thinking. It's just taking the basically pseudocode that they give you and turning it into a functioning. Ooh, damn. Yeah, I will not be spending a day on these ones, at least not on stream. Maybe I'll spend a day, sleep on them and stuff, but yeah, hopefully it's not that hard. I did see one person, I only found like one person who like published their times. I mean, I'm sure there were others, but I only looked at one. And for the most part, they seemed like this person was solving most of them under 30 minutes, but they had one random 4-hour one. And it seems like they were taking it seriously because they actually had their like their times for every single day in there, into their code and stuff. So I assume they were taking it somewhat seriously. So I mean, we'll see if it takes a full 4 hours. But yeah, let's go through the solution. I was talking a lot more than I did yesterday while solving it, so it's probably makes a little more sense immediately. But going back to how this works. So there's 3 main instructions or commands or whatever we want to call them. There's forward, down, and up. Forward increases your horizontal position by X units. It only moves in one direction. You can't move backwards in this submarine. Down increases your vertical position, what I was calling vertical position, V pause, also known as the depth. It increases it because as you go down, you're increasing your depth from the water level, if you're thinking about it that way. Well, I mean, you should be thinking about it that way because it is a submarine. And then up X decreases the depth by X units, so same thing, it's the opposite of what you would imagine. So what I used my boilerplate code from yesterday just to read lines into input. Chat, I would love, once we get there, is there a cleaner way to do this when I only want to cast, use the read lines, but only want to cast one, one index of each list to an int? I don't know off the top of my head. I'm sure if I search for it, but if there's any Python people in here, some concept that would be helpful there. This is definitely not the most elegant way to do this, I'm sure. And then you're working with not getting to n squared, but you're at least at 2n now in terms of big O. Sorry, got a little sidetracked. So before on this, we didn't worry about aim. We just had H position and V position. Starting at 0, both, you're starting in like the upper left if you want to think about it as a coordinate system. Moving right is your horizontal position. Anytime you do forward, down moves you positive in terms of the coordinate system, but it's like down on a physical piece of paper if you want to like think about looking at that submarine from the side. Oh yeah. So instructions. So we iterate through this again and do this cast that I was talking about. So you split the line because you have the string forward space 5 and you want to check. I just thought of a probably easier way I could have done this. I think it would have included some more typing. But instead of actually splitting the line, or I'll talk about that in a second. But what I did to solve it was you create the split line, which is line.split. Again, the default delimiter with split in Python is a space, which is what we want. So it creates, from each string, it creates a list where the first index is that first word, takes out the space, and then the string 5, if it were forward 5, down 5, whatever. But as I mentioned when we were working through it, you want the number itself, the distance, the x units in this case, you want it to be an integer. And the reason being is in order to do all of the addition or subtraction that we were doing and actually give us a number and be able to multiply it at the end and stuff like that, it needs to be an integer, not the string 5 or the string 8. So that's what I'm doing on line 12, is taking the second index and casting it to an int here, and then appending that split line on there. So the solution that would have been better though is there's no reason, there's no reason that I need to like recreate this list, right? Because I'm already going to iterate through it again. So what I could do instead is I'm just gonna, so we're gonna take all this out or comment it out, and I'm gonna try it again, make it a little more clear by I guess I'll do it above. So for line in input, the split line, it's very similar to the other one, but it's not duplicating the logic, or at least duplicating the for loop. So line.split. The command, I think, is a better word than instruction, just for clarity, is equal to split line 0. X is equal to the integer cast of split line 1. Yeah, I'm doing that right. So now we have our values, right? So there's no reason to create a whole new list that has that cast. You can just do all of the checking in order. So same idea as before. If, sorry, not instruction. I was looking at the, I wrote it before. If it's equal to forward, I don't know why it's doing that. H position is plus equal to X. Yeah. Elif. Yeah, I know the unindent's not expected. I don't know why the editor. I know I was raving about LunarVim before. It's not his fault either, but for some reason the language server that I'm using for Python, for some reason, does some weird stuff like this. I don't know why unindented. But I'll fix that in a second. If it's down, the vertical position is plus equal to X. X is possibly unbounded. Oh, it's because of the indenting. Sorry, it probably looks really much more difficult to read right now. But V position is minus equal to X. Yeah. Yep, same value I got before. So that's clean. So this is going to be the solution to part 1 of day 2 is I don't know why. I thought you could just do this and it would concatenate them together by default, but maybe it's a Python version difference. I don't know what I have installed here. But yeah, that was more so what I wanted. So I can take this part out because I don't need that. And then just going to clean up the code. Hopefully that makes sense for anybody. If you have questions, let me know. Mostly cleaning up the code and re-talking through how I could have made this more efficient if I were to have done it again. So this is to solve for the second part with the slightly different rules. So it's the same boilerplate. Your commands and your X's are the same. The difference is I need to have I need to have these reset before, or else you're gonna get a really big number because it's not gonna start at 0 again. So just cheating a little bit and looking down what I did before. So H position was the same in part 2. Yeah, there we go. So forward, it's the same as it was before. H position is incremented by X. And your depth, so V position, is incremented by aim times X. There we go. And I know this isn't correct. This should be aim, because with down, aim is increased by X units, and aim is decreased by X units. Yeah. So the solution to part 2 is 186 blah 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 5580. Yeah, cool. So yeah, thank you for everybody that joined the stream. I think as I was talking, I mentioned I don't think many people were on this early, but I started feeling like sick maybe, or just under the weather earlier today. So I thought I wasn't going to go for very long. I probably still won't go for super long, but talking and seeing people joining in chat and stuff definitely mentally made me feel a lot better. And hopefully I'm feeling better in the morning. But yeah, thank you for all the people that joined in, were watching. It was nice to see at one point having 7 concurrent viewers. Please follow if you want to. Never mind. But yeah, follow. I'm going to be continuing this throughout probably as many days this month as possible. At the very least, I will be completing all of the days of the Advent of Code, and at least going through my solutions on stream, whether they happen at 8:30 Pacific time, right before the new question gets dropped. It may or may not happen, but at some point, I will be going through my solutions on all of them, as long as I solve all of them, which I'm confident that I will, but it might take, as Devil Squirrel was talking about, it may take a whole day or something like that. But yeah, I'm going to try to do this for as much of the rest of this, the Advent of Code, as possible. Yeah, maybe won't be streaming on like weekend nights, like Friday and Saturday, just doing something else, but you never know, we'll see. But I'm really enjoying this so far. Thank you everyone for tuning in. Feel free to ask any questions before I end the stream. Again, open to personal questions, technical questions, setup questions, how I approached a certain thing, whatever it may be. We'll hang out here for a few minutes. We're at 56 minutes right now. I'll probably let it go till 9:30, which should be around an hour. I think some of the other streams, I'll do some more practices, and hopefully I can get to the point where I'm practicing like some of those later problems before I get to them, the ones where they really step up in difficulty, because I feel like I need that practice in order to solve it well. But I don't remember where I was going with that. Oh yeah, as long as I'm feeling better tomorrow, probably will be going from about 8:30 Eastern time to 10 o'clock Eastern time, working on the project from the actual problem for that day from 9 onwards till whenever I finish it, and then before and after, explaining my solution like I did here, and then yeah, working on other problems from previous years as some practice, and doing some explanation there. So hopefully this was helpful for everybody. I'm really enjoying it so far. I'm really glad that this small community that's being built is doing well. And I'm really glad that you guys are all here. I just realized I didn't change my stream title. Maybe that will update eventually. I think it still says day 1. See you later, Amish. Thank you for the content. Yeah, I'll have the VOD stay up for 14 days, so if you want to take a look at the VOD after, feel free. Maybe we'll be getting it out on YouTube later, but I need to see exactly if I'm allowed to do that and where I should be putting it. But I'll let you guys know. But yeah, I'm going to be heading out in a minute. I'm just going to hang out here for a second, but yeah. Thank you all for being here. It's really nice. The first time I streamed, I was doing similar stuff. Was just working on some leak code problems, and not on this account. But it's really nice to have people that are actually here. I felt like I was talking to myself. I had like one viewer, streamed for a couple hours. I had like one viewer that came in for like less than a minute, maybe 2 minutes, and then left, and I was just like talking to myself for a long time. So it's definitely nice to know that there's people here, people joining in on the chat and stuff. But yeah, I'm interested. This person in first place. Oh, wait. Oh, this is their GitHub. I'm interested how long they took. Is there a way to know? Obviously they're top, but is there a way to see like more in-depth stats on like how long people took? I don't know. That's weird. But Yeah, yeah, thank you, man. See you all later. See you all tomorrow. Hopefully, more people can join in tomorrow as well. But yeah, thank you very much for all your support, everybody. I'm gonna call it a night. Hopefully, I feel better tomorrow. And hopefully, not trying to be too hard on myself, but hopefully, I get a better ranking tomorrow than I did today. I felt like I was a little slow today, but we'll see. Yeah, good night, everybody. Stay safe.